Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. Thank you for joining me again on what is, as you can see, another very sunny, warm, blue sky day. Once again we've got no clouds in the sky at all. Very warm temperatures, as you can tell by me wearing my sun hat. And we're coming into the start of the summer season now, so it's only going to get warmer and warmer. So if you're watching this vlog now, please remember to give it a thumbs up and also remember to subscribe to my channel, because that all helps the channel to grow going forward, and I really appreciate it. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much for your support, and I look forward to showing you more and more vlogs in the future, and hopefully we can together build this channel up in the future. I want to talk to you today a little bit about bluebells. Basically, I'm sick of the bastards. Everybody who is anybody takes photos of bluebells at this time of year. And that's perfectly all right. I'm quite happy for you to carry on doing that. But for me, there seems to be only a couple of ways to really photograph them. And they create these quite strong cliches every time somebody shares an image or takes an image of bluebells in the woodland. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. So the two methods for photographing bluebells are really quite simple. First of all, you've got the middle of a woodland path with trees either side, bluebells on the ground, giving you a beautiful carpet of blue to look at. Your woodland path leads you further into the woodland and keeps the eye guessing about where you're going. And the bluebells on the floor give you this beautiful blue colour to look at, so you've got something interesting within the image itself as you're strolling through it. The other way to photograph them, of course, is getting closer to the ground, getting really close up to a small patch of bluebells, preferably with a macro lens. Excuse the plane above my head. Preferably with a macro lens, and you shoot with a very wide aperture, so you've got a very, very shallow depth of field, and you pick out 2 or 3 very interesting bluebells within that colour scheme, and photograph just those, and everything else is out of focus. But of course, both of those options really are very, very cliched. Everybody shoots them, everybody shares them, and when they're shared on social media, everybody oversaturates the blues in those images to really emphasise the colour of those bluebells. There's really no need to do it, and it really, really winds me up. Every time I look at images of bluebells, I just get really, really bored of them and just want to look at something else. There's nothing at all wrong with them. They are beautiful to look at, but they're just boring. They don't really do anything at all for me in terms of inspiration. So this year, I've kept away from them completely. I have photographed them in previous years, but for this year, just for 1 year, I decided I was going to keep away and see if I could look for something else other than bluebells in the woodland. Anyway, I'm going to have to move on because I'm on this path here and I don't really know where it's going to go. I've got an idea where it's going to go, as always, and I think I know where I'm going to end up when I get there. But for the time being, there just doesn't seem to be anything at all either side of the path to photograph. So I think I'm going to have to keep walking along this path and find an interesting composition at the far end of it. Come along with me. So there's a little sapling just here, just off the side of the path where I'm walking. And quite surprisingly, there's a little bit of the path which kind of splits off a little bit. And there's one slightly raised area which is just perfect for me to put my tripod down here and take a shot of this without me being on the main path just 3 or 4 feet away, possibly getting in the way of other walkers walking past here while I'm taking a photo. But I quite like this image here because what we've got is this sapling with its green shoots coming out the top of it. It's only about 3 or 4 feet high, but that's kind of resting against the backdrop of all of this scrubland behind it. That in fact is all of last year's ferns that were growing last summer, and they've been allowed to die off, and some of them have been cut back, and it's just been allowed to come to rest as just this brown patch of scrubland, to be quite honest with you. But then right in the middle of it, just here, near to the edge of my path, is this sapling that I want to photograph. And the green shoots on the top of that sapling really do contrast well with the light browns and greys of the scrubland behind it. So I'm going to set this one up and take this shot here. I'm going to have to be quite low on the tripod because obviously I don't want the fleshy area of the sapling to be above the level of the scrubland behind it, because you start to lose a little bit of that colour with the trees in the background as well. So I don't want to do that. I'd rather keep all of that colour within that scrubland. So here goes. That's the first image in the can. Hope you like that one. I'm already finding that today's vlog is a little bit challenging because of this sunlight, quite frankly. It's making it very difficult to be absolutely certain of my exposure. So in that respect it is challenging, but at the same time, once I can get the exposure, I don't need to worry too much about dynamic range. And that's mainly because as the sun comes out and brightens everything up, when it's this strong and this high in the sky, it really is ensuring that everything has pretty much got a fairly even exposure anyway, so there's no need for me to do something like exposure bracketing here with these kind of conditions, because everything has got a fairly standard light all the way through. I've just noticed, however, that there are one or two fair weather clouds appearing now. They've only really appeared in the last 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They may help some compositions, they may hinder some, but also they may change and diffuse this sunlight a little bit if they get a little bit thicker. So we'll carry on and see what challenges this vlog brings for the rest of the day. So I have worked out exactly where I am now. Just coming to the end of this path here, there's a junction with another path, and that's one which I have walked along before, and I've often walked past this junction here and never bothered to come this way. So I've come at it from the opposite direction this time round. But yep, I know exactly where I am, and in just a moment you'll be able to see exactly where I am as well. If you've been watching regularly, you may well recognise this next spot I'll show you. This is a bridge I've photographed before. I like coming back here every now and then because I just like the juxtaposition of this bridge. You've got all this beautiful scenery all around it and a brook running up towards it, just behind me, just here. This here running along towards the bridge. And then on the bridge itself you've got all this graffiti, which looks a mess, but it actually sits quite nicely with the bridge and the backdrop of all of the colour around the bridge. I don't know what it is about that spot that I was just standing in by that bridge, but it seems that every single time I go there I end up attracting dogs to the spot as well. I don't know how, I don't know why, and they're always big dogs, dangerous dogs, and they're never on their leads. And I don't know why it is, but I've just been stood there about to take the shot. Suddenly heard a couple walking down the hill, had a look up, and they had with them two bulldog type dogs and a smaller terrier kind of dog. None of them were on their leads, and of course they all three of them wanted to be in the water at that brook where I was standing in front of where I was going to take the photo. I didn't actually mind that too much because their dogs seemed to be quite well trained and quite well behaved. But as I was stood there and they were running around and messing around in the water, I looked up the other way and a guy was coming from the opposite direction with a great big massive Doberman Pinscher. And I could hear the couple with the other dogs saying, let's get them on the leads quickly. So fair play to them for recognising the danger. But I just didn't fancy hanging around there while there were going to be dogs there, either messing up the scene or potentially knocking over my camera from the tripod, or even worse than that, potentially attacking me or each other. So I thought I'd walk about 150 yards away from there into this little spot. I'm glad I did actually, and I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. As I walked away up the hill in the direction that the couple with their 3 dogs had originally come from, I spotted another composition just there, which I've seen once or twice before, but I've never bothered to take it before because it just didn't look right in the light at that time. But instead in this light it looks a lot better. It looks very interesting, but it's one of those compositions which will evoke some very, very different and very extreme views. It's something a bit unusual, something I wouldn't normally photograph, but it's one of these ones where I feel like I've got to tell the story, and it's only just 100 yards back in that direction. So I'm going to head down there now and see if I can capture that, and hopefully by the time I get there those dogs will have moved on and I won't need to worry about what's going on there. Here's the shot just behind me. Just here you can see, don't know how well you can see it in this light, but you can see that some of the trees here have been victims of what appears to be some sort of forest fire. The trees are all burnt black and dead, and it also seems to be contained to a very small area of around about 150 square feet, possibly not even that. It's just a very, very small, very contained area. I don't know whether it would have been the result of a deliberate act or if it was accidental, but either way it's kind of a story of today's vlog, to be honest. Something a little bit different, something I'm not really sure about myself, but I'm going to take the shot anyway just because it's there, and it's something that will essentially get people talking. So I hope you enjoyed this shot, or maybe you won't, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Just out of interest, that there is the path that I walked along a little earlier to get to where I am now. And it's only about half an hour ago that I was walking along there, but as I turn around now, there's a massive herd of cows somewhere along this path just here. And they're kind of in the way of where I want to walk back to. But also, what I'd like to do is go back to that bridge. I've just waited here for a few minutes because there's somebody else on the bridge at the moment with another very big dog. Admittedly, this time it's on the lead, but I can't go there while there's that obstructing my view. So now that they're moving, he seems to be moving and he's got his dog on the lead. I'm going to make my way back to that bridge and take a photo of that bridge now. This is exactly the kind of cliche that I was talking about. That there is the path that I was just walking along away from that bridge earlier, and just here, right beside me, we've got a patch of bluebells. Now, they are surrounded by some quite tall fern stems and some quite tall nettles, to be quite honest with you. So if I stop here and take a photo, which surprisingly I think I'm going to now, because I quite like some of the compositions that I'm seeing here, and I'm just going to try and pinpoint one of those just as a macro style shot. But if I'm stopping here, I've got to be really, really careful about not getting myself stung by nettles, not trampling all over the composition, and essentially trying to get the best possible shot I can. So I think I'm going to give it a go. So apologies guys, I caved in and decided to take one of the cliched shots that I was talking to you about earlier. I'm not, however, going to try and oversaturate these for social media because I love the natural blue of these bluebells anyway. So I hope you like the image. It's a portrait orientation, shot with a 50mm lens, wide open at f1.8 to make sure I really reduced down the depth of field, and then I was focused on an area of bluebells just about a foot or so just in front of the lens, which was quite nice, but it shows everything else behind it then just dropping out of focus, and anything that is just in front of the area where I'm focused is also very much out of focus. So that's the image, that's the final image of the day. Hope you've enjoyed the vlog. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also remember to subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.